What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and welcome back to yet another video going over OCG card reveals. So these were over the past week or so. Some of these are a little bit older, like the first couple we're going to look at, but also today's video will include the worst legacy support card I have ever seen, and it's for a deck that I really want legacy support for, so I'm pretty disappointed. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe for more content, but without further ado, let's take a look at the first couple of cards. So there are two new zombie support cards, and these ones, they're probably a little bit underpowered. They need one more thing to make them good, but I think they're pretty interesting to talk about, so I wanted to start today's video by talking about them. This one is a level 4 Earth zombie effect monster with 1200 attack and 1000 offense, and it says if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, or if it is special summoned from the graveyard, you can draw one card. So that effect is basically Sacred Crane with an upside. Sacred Crane is not a once per turn effect, so you could maybe argue it's better in that regard, whereas this one is a once per turn effect. But importantly, this one is a zombie monster, not a winged beast. And that matters a lot because, as we all know, zombies are all about reviving monsters. You can summon this thing so many different ways in any deck playing zombie support cards, and that makes it a tiny bit more interesting than if it was another type of card. The likelihood of this card's effect being triggered by your opponent destroying it by a card effect while it's in your possession is basically zero, but I could maybe see someone playing this as a one-of in a zombie deck just to get some free draws. Like I said, there are plenty of ways not only to revive it, but also I should mention there are plenty of ways to put it in the graveyard in any zombie deck, so maybe someone will try it out. But this was not the only card like this in this particular reveal. We also had another card with a very similar effect. Once again, here we have a level 4 Earth zombie monster. This time it has 1400 attack and 1200 defense, and this time it says if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, or if it is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target one attack position monster your opponent controls, destroy it. So yes, it does target, and every time I talk about a targeting effect, I always get comments from people saying, well, it targets, therefore it's bad. I don't think that's necessarily true. Obviously, it would be better if it didn't target, but I think the effect is fine, honestly, and once again here, we have tons of ways to put it in the graveyard and revive it turn after turn after turn. You can use cards like Mizuki, in fact, and that would be pretty good. So maybe a zombie deck could play one copy of this card and one copy of the other card, just as a way to get some value out of your revival effects beyond what people were already playing. One thing I do want to say here is that if either of these cards were tuner monsters, then they might be pretty strong. I think that is one thing I really wish they were. Making these cards tuners would have made them a lot better for a lot of decks, but as it stands right now, you would have to have another card on the board if you wanted to synchro summon. That's not to say that's a huge deal breaker. You can still use these cards for Xyz summons or link summons or whatever, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult to synchro summon with these because you will need a tuner monster as well. But if these cards were tuners, then they would have been a lot more appealing. In that same set of reveals, we also had Armored Armed Dragon. That's a fun name. It's a level 4 Wind Dragon effect monster with 1900 attack points and 1400 defense. This card says when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon one level 5 or lower Wind Dragon monster from your hand or deck, except Armored Armed Dragon, but it cannot attack directly this turn. Now let's be real here, it's 2021. Is anyone really going to play a card that only triggers when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle? Probably not. I mean, I think we're long past cards like Flameveil Firedog and Shura of the Blue Flame being good cards, and this card is obviously very similar to those ones. Now I will mention here though, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this card is because, man, Konami is really giving us a ton of Wind Dragon support. Obviously, we recently got the Armed Dragon Thunder cards, which are all Wind Dragons, but even besides that, there's actually been a ton of really weird, not always great Wind Dragon support that's been announced over the last 6 months. In fact, now that I think about it, one of my friends recently posted a video talking about this Wind Dragon support. I'll link that in the description if you want to. to hear about that. Seeing Konami print so many support cards for Wind Dragon monsters recently has been really interesting. I don't think it's enough to make a good deck around, but it might be something you want to pay attention to over the years because there's a lot of it out there and it could get a lot better with just a few more cards. That brings us to the worst legacy support card I have ever seen. I do not know how to pronounce this card's name, but this is a level 3 Earth Fairy Spirit effect monster. Now, if you guys have been following my channel for a long time, like way back in the day, you'll know that I love spirit monsters. I got my first regional top 8 with a spirit deck, and I played the deck for quite a while. I was also very excited for the Bird cards when those were released a few years back. So when I saw that there was a new spirit monster, I got pretty excited until I read the effect. Let's take a look at what this card does. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand while you control a spirit monster. Not so bad. You can only special summon a card with this name once per turn this way. During the end phase, if this card was special summoned during this turn, return this card to the hand. During the end phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard, then target one spirit monster you control. During this turn, that monster's effects that activate on the field cannot be activated. Oh man, I mean, it's just a card where I see what they were going for. The idea is that you banish this card in your graveyard after using it for a Link Summon or a Synchro or an Xyz monster or whatever, and then it prevents a spirit monster from bouncing back to your hand in the end phase. And that could be pretty good, I guess. You know, if you target that Amano Awado card, that's obviously going to be pretty decent, but I feel like spirits already have plenty of ways to dodge that bouncing back to hand ability. For example, Birds. The ritual monsters special summon the cards from your hand or deck, and that will not trigger the bouncing back effect on Amano Awado. This card is just so disappointing. I love spirit monsters, and they could definitely use more support. They are in a really bad spot right now, and they've been in a bad spot for quite a while now, so they would need better cards to be competitive. I don't even know if it would be possible to make one single card to make spirits a good deck, but certainly they have to make better cards than this to at least make it worth trying out. There's pretty much no reason to play this card in a spirit deck. They didn't even make it level 4 because then you could use it as a free extender to make rank 4 monsters because spirits have plenty of level 4s. They made it a level 3, so it's not even good to use as Xyz material, which is a big downside. It's also not a tuner. It could have been pretty cool if it was. I know I said that about the zombie cards as well, but that was for a different reason. The reason that this card would be a good tuner monster is because it is a free special summon, and that would put it in the graveyard right away. As it stands right now, you can't really use this card to make synchro summons because spirits don't really play any tuners, and obviously this one isn't a tuner. You can't really use it to make Xyz monsters because it's not a level 4 monster, and spirits primarily have level 4 monsters, so the only way to get value out of this card, the only real reliable way to put it in the graveyard, would be to use it for a Link Summon, but spirits don't really care about Link Summoning that much. Overall, I am very, very disappointed in this card. I do hope this means that Konami still is thinking about spirit monsters even in 2021, but we need better support than this terrible card. Finally, we have the Black Lava Dragoon. This is a really interesting rank 7 monster. I know some people are saying it's not as good as maybe it would have been if it was released a few years ago, but personally I think this card is pretty great, and I think that there aren't that many good first turn rank 7s to make anymore, so this card could be a decent card in any deck that can make rank 7s. This is a rank 7 Dark Dragon Xyz monster that takes 2 level 7 monsters, so completely generic, and it says once per turn you can attach 2 materials from this card, then target one face-up card on the field. Destroy it. If you destroyed a monster with this effect, you can have a one face-up monster you control gain 300 attack times the destroyed monster's original level or rank until the end of the next turn. This card cannot attack during the turn you activate this effect. If this card has a dragon monster as Xyz material, this effect becomes a quick effect. Interestingly enough, in that video that I was talking about that my friend made on Wind Dragon support cards, he mentions that one of the things that those decks are lacking is a good rank 7 monster to make on turn 1. And then this card was revealed and it was like, holy crap, this is perfect for those types of decks. So if you are playing a dragon deck and you are playing level 7 monsters, this is a card you have to be playing. And no, it's not better than like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, but it's also a card that doesn't require you to play any garnets, And one of the cooler things about this is that you don't need 2 dragons as material to make this effect a quick effect. You only need at least 1. So even if you're playing a deck that only has a few level 7 dragons, as long as you can make rank 7 monsters using at least 1 of those dragons, this card is obviously a nice option to have. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below how you feel about these new OCG reveals. I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.